Hi, my name's Trinity Peterson and I'm an ERP advisor for Striven. Today we're covering customer management, and in this video we're going to focus on customer asset management. So we're going to cover asset types, custom fields you can store with those assets, the customer asset list, your asset grid view, and then asset management. So let's dive right in and get started. To first begin using customer assets, you first want to set up your customer asset types. In order to do that, let's go to Company and Settings, and then let's go to Customers, Vendors, Assets, and Types. There may be a few default ones in there which you can use and edit as needed, or we can create a new asset type right here. So let's go ahead and do that. Maybe what we track for our customer is equipment, so let's call this one Customer Equipment. You can choose what the default status is. Now the options are not in service, retired, or unsupported. So maybe customer equipment by default, we want it in service. So when you first create an asset for the customer, it'll automatically go to this status without you having to update it. Then there's some options on what you would like to include in your asset. We have has expiration date. So do you want to track if this asset will expire? And you can also choose to make it required. Has date purchased, so are you tracking the date that the customer purchased this asset? Checking this off, you can also make that required. Has present value, so if you're keeping track of how much it currently is valued at now for the customer equipment, you can track that in here too. And then you can choose to make it required. And then if you want this asset type to be visible on the partner portal, you would just check this off as well. So this is going to make sure every asset that's created with this type will automatically be set to be visible to the customer so they can gain information from it as needed. So now that I have my asset type set up, I'm going to go ahead and just hit save and close, or save. Now after you save, you do have a few other options here. For example, you can create some custom fields. So let's go ahead and add a custom field for additional information we track about our customer's asset. Maybe we want to track if they purchased it used. And then what we could do is with the field type, we can choose what type of field should this information be displayed as. I think for this one, it makes sense to put it as a yes/no field. So that's what we'll do. On some options, you'll have a different display type option that you can choose from. But for our case, I'm just going to leave it to the default. Now, if you want to have this field visible on the portal, you would check this off as well. So something to keep in mind is if you check visible on portal, but the type is not visible on the portal, then they're not going to be able to see this information. So you want to make sure if you want this visible, the type also has to be visible as well. So let's go ahead and save and close. And now we have our custom field. Now this blue globe is what's indicating it's visible on the portal. Now keep in mind you can add sections so you can have an organized feel to the information you're tracking about the asset. And then we have another tab up here which is grid fields. So this is where you're going to be able to create a grid on how you want the asset's information to be displayed without having to click into each individual asset that the customer has. So let's go ahead and add a new field. As you can see, it's all those information that's already being stored with the asset type. So we can choose account, account location, date purchased, expiration date, present value, purchase price, visible on customer portal, and as you notice, any custom fields can also be added to this as well. So let's go ahead and add them. I can rearrange for how I would like my grid to be displayed, and I can remove any right here as well. As you can see, the asset name is persistent, meaning you cannot remove this from the grid. And there's also a tag so you can know which of these fields is a custom field that you created. So now let's go back to basic info and hit save and close now that our asset type is ready to be used. Now let's go ahead and create an asset for our customers. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. I can go to customer, the customer list, and then find a specific customer. After clicking on the customer's information, I can use this go-to bar right here to go to their assets. This is going to allow me to add an asset for Betty's Bakery from within their profile. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to click Add, and then I'm going to choose the one we just created, Customer's Equipment, and let's go ahead and give it a name. Maybe the asset we're tracking for this customer is someone's workstation. So let's just name it Workstation. And then we have automatically the customers being selected because we're adding this asset underneath the customer. You can associate it to a specific location for the customer. As you see, the status went to in service because that's what we set as the default at the type level. You can enter a date purchased, present value, purchase price, and then if there's any expiration date. Now notice I didn't make any of these fields required, so I don't have to fill this in if I don't have the information available. And then as you can see, my custom fields have been added as a section down here, so I can say if I purchased it used or not. Now that I have this ready, let's go ahead and hit save and close so we can see the asset from under the customer. I'm going to go ahead and click search so I see their full list of assets. And there's the workstation we just created. All the information is right from within here. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how else we can add an asset into the system. So I'm going to go to Customers, Assets, and then go to the Asset List. This is going to list all assets for customers regardless of which customer it's associated with. As you can see from the list here, I can see the customer. So the asset name will be displayed here with the customer's name underneath it. I can see what type it is, what's the current status, and then I can delete any assets right from here as well. So let's go ahead and add a new asset. You'll notice it's very similar to what we just did, except it's not underneath the customer. Let's go ahead and give us another name. And then now you notice because we're not adding it from under the customer, it's asking us which customer this should be related to. I'm going to go ahead and choose Betty's Bakery again. And then as you can see, the location, the status, it's all very similar. You're just adding it from a different area. Once I'm ready, I can hit save and close. Now let's go take a deeper look into the assets. I'm going to go back to my customer list and find Betty's Bakery since I know she has two assets underneath them. So I'm going to go to go back to the assets underneath the customer. And as you can see, it's showing my grid here that I set up with the type. If I want to view more information about the asset, I could just click on it from the list. Right from here, there's some actions I can take, such as making a copy of this asset, viewing the audit log so I can see any changes that have taken place to the asset. I can open it in a new window if I want a fuller view. I can view the asset hub and store documentation or links about the asset to the hub. And then I can see if this asset has been associated with any task. Scrolling down, you can see all the information we already put in, but there's also a few other things over here. So you can choose to relate this asset to another one. So maybe this one is related to the other workstation I have for this customer. If I want to edit, I can then enter what that relation is. And then I click Update. I can also associate this asset to a contact. For example, since this is a workstation, maybe I want to associate it to the exact person who will be working at this workstation. If I do make any changes to these fields, I want to make sure and hit save so those changes take effect. So as you can see, there's a lot of information you can store about your customer's assets and track information about them over time.